When I first saw that positive pregnancy test, I felt a mix of emotions: joy, excitement, and a little bit of fear. Baby number 5. Our family was about to shift again, and I knew this pregnancy would bring new challenges and blessings. Actually, let's pause. The scene when I found out I was pregnant with my 5th was a little bit more dramatic. I share more about how we found out in the accompanying blog post this week. I just didn't find that how we found out was very YouTube script worthy, so you'll have to head over there to hear that section. But needless to say, my husband and I were not prepared for 4 months postpartum to be pregnant again. Having a big family is something that neither of us ever dreamed of, but we also have always felt that slight nudge to put our family in God's hands, which of course brings a lot of questions and opinions. Do we have enough love to go around? What did you think was going to happen? Is this the last one? Are we making the right decision? Are we doing the right thing for our older kids? Obviously, some of those are our own questions, and some of those are from nosy others. The early years of parenting have taught me so much, but preparing for my 5th baby feels very different. With my first child, I wanted everything to be picture perfect. Now my focus has shifted from the aesthetics of baby gear and baby nurseries and that kind of thing to the heart of family dynamics. So today, I want to share more about how I am preparing for our 5th baby, both spiritually, mentally, physically, and share some tips and tricks with being pregnant 5 times that I have learned. I also think I will be doing another YouTube video about commonly asked questions about my choice to birth naturally and with midwives. And so if you have any questions, make sure to drop that in the comment section below. In the accompanying blog post, I do have some answers to commonly asked questions, so you can go check that out if you're curious. But I think I probably will do a separate video on commonly asked questions about our natural birth. So here are 3 ways I am preparing my heart, mind, and spirit for having our 5th baby. Welcome to Healing Home. I hope you are encouraged and inspired by your time here. Don't get me wrong, I'm very excited about having another baby boy. Yes, our 5th boy. The shock, however, 4 months postpartum did take a toll on my mind, mainly because our 4th pregnancy with baby Waylon was definitely my hardest pregnancy. 2003 and the beginning of 2004 were a living nightmare for me, and as often happens, challenging things come in threes, and that's exactly what happened this time. 3 distinct situations happened that left me feeling helpless, alone, and fighting for my family in ways that I could never have imagined. The effects of those personal traumas, if you can call it that, really affected my pregnancy and postpartum period. I will forever believe that the lack of bonding that I've experienced with Waylon and my inability to nurse him is somehow connected to the stress of our pregnancy. Since my last pregnancy, delivery, baby, and postpartum period are very fresh in my memory, much of that time has shaped how I've prepared and focused for this 5th baby. I've prayed many times that God would redeem this pregnancy and that God would give me a faith-based birth instead of a fear-based birth.
So is think of what colors these things could be when they're cold. Think of colors that are cold colors. White. And then think of colors that are hot colors.
The first thing that I'm doing is allowing myself grace. With my very first baby, I obsessed over every tiny detail, matching nursery sets, the perfect stroller, and every baby book recommendation from social media. Now, let's just say I'm kind of over that phase. Then my nursery does not have to be Pinterest perfect. Instead, I'm more focused on how to fit everyone comfortably into our home and maintain a close family bond. However, I do want to say, if you're going through your first pregnancy, obsessing over every tiny detail is normal and probably exactly what you might need to do. Of course, everyone's different. Having a larger family means being flexible. We don't have endless space, but we have enough love to go around. Complete strangers often give me their unsolicited opinions about our family size, even at the grocery store. Some with admiration, others with definite judgment. But I've learned that bigger families function best when we focus on relationships rather than material things. A few practical ways that I've allowed myself grace is that, like I've already mentioned, is my nursery. I am not going to have a picture-perfect nursery this time around, and that's totally okay. I'm focusing on practicality instead of aesthetics. I managed to get my hands on 2 smaller dressers that were black. They needed to be tall and or thin, and I searched high and low until I found 2 that fit within our budget and fit within the space that we had in a way that was functional. I contemplated painting them to match the other white furniture in the nurseries, but in the end, I just didn't have the energy, and black and white still do match. No matter what pregnancy you are in, give yourself grace in many things, and remember that God's grace is sufficient for you. A scripture that has encouraged me, but he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." 2 Corinthians 12:9. This pregnancy, I'm giving myself grace, embracing the chaos and remembering that a home filled with love is far more important than a perfectly styled space. The second thing that I'm doing to prepare is staying active and nourishing my body. Pregnancy takes a toll, especially when you already have a lot of kids to chase after. I've always been active and attempted exercise each pregnancy, but this time around I'm being more intense about it while still giving myself grace. My routine is early in the morning I do 2 miles of cardio, which is usually on an elliptical or a treadmill. I love running, although I'm very slow at it. Then I take time to do weights and squats. The total time is about 20 to 30 minutes. And no, I had no interest in recording this for YouTube. At first, I was doing this 5 times a week, but in my 3rd trimester with a history of back issues, I've reduced it to 4 times a week. Honestly, this has completely revolutionized my mental health, and I can't imagine not getting it in almost every day of the week. Quick note. Episode 32 of the Pain-Free Birth podcast is very educational about impactful movement and mobility. I listened to it recently and I give it a great recommendation. Of course, I'm also focusing on homemade meals and nourishing my body with healthy protein, fats, and carbs. In the video this week, I'm making sourdough crust shepherd's pie and brown bread and some other from scratch recipes. That sourdough crust and the brown bread are definitely linked in the description and are also available at healinghomerecipes.co. I know some people really like making meals ahead of time for pregnancy and delivery. I've tried that a couple of pregnancies and it just doesn't work well. Instead, during pregnancy and postpartum, I like to repurpose meals. For example, this past week I made chili one night, and then the next night we had a baked potato bar with leftover chili. Then I made mashed potatoes and pork chops, and the next day we turned the leftover mashed potatoes into a shepherd's pie. And I find that doing that during pregnancy and postpartum is the best way for me to still make meals, but do it in a simpler way. I'm also preparing my body in other ways. One way is with Christian hypnobirthing, or hypnobirthing, depending on how you say it. Don't get too caught up on the hypnobirthing. It sounds like hypnotizing, but that is not what it is. When I first heard it in my first pregnancy, I was given a book about it, and I kind of looked into it, decided it wasn't for me, but it it's been on the outskirts of every single one of my pregnancies in some way. And this time I bought the Christian Hypnobirthing app, and I was given the Christian Hypnobirthing online course. I can't recommend the course or the app with the soundtracks enough. It is a calming and Christ-centered approach to labor. And yes, I have a link with an affiliate code in it if you want 20% off one of the courses. The code is Rachel9883, which I'll definitely put in the description. It's different than the codes that I usually get. But I have taken many courses, and I honestly think this might be the course that I recommend the most. But the app is very impactful with the tracks, and I plan on listening to the tracks during labor as well. I've shared this in another pregnancy prep video, but I also, around 35 weeks, start taking a labor prep formula, and I really believe that this has helped my births. My first 2 births were very long, and my last 2 have been about 6 hours, and I attribute this partially to that labor prep formula that my midwives have recommended. I'm also focusing on practical things like staying hydrated, listening to my midwife, which can be hard for me. I'm also reading again for the 5th time, Redeeming Childbirth by Angie Toplin, which is a faith-filled perspective on birth. And as I shared in my Preparing for Baby Number 4 video, reading my Fruit of the Spirit affirmation cards that I bring to every single labor and delivery. And the last thing that I'm doing to prepare my body is one of the weirdest things that I've ever done, and that is watching positive birth experiences. So I am watching birth videos online for the first time. I thought it was really weird at first, every single pregnancy, but this 5th pregnancy, I have found it very empowering. So I'll link one that is, in the accompanying blog post, there is one linked that I found particularly amazing and helpful. A scripture that has encouraged me in this way that I am prepping my body is, "So, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do, do all for the glory of God." 1 Corinthians 10:31. This preparation isn't just about physical health. It's about stewarding my body well so I can serve my family with energy and joy. And the last way I'm preparing for baby number 5 is spending quality time with my family. One of the hardest parts of a growing family is making sure each child feels loved and seen. My older children are getting used to the idea of new siblings, but I know that once the baby comes, time will be stretched even thinner. That's why I'm being intentional about spending quality time with my 4 boys before this big transition. We're finishing up homeschooling early again this year, which is what we did before the birth of Waylon. The goal is to have the bulk of our homeschooling year finished by early April. I'm also spending a lot of time preparing for next year's school. It's probably not totally necessary, but I'm trying to get the bulk of our unit studies chosen for my own peace of mind. My boys and husband are my best friend right now, and I'm sure that boys part is a little bit controversial statement, and I know that it's just a season, not the husband part. He'll always be my best friend. And I want them to remember this season with fondness rather than feeling like they have less time with me. A lot of people assume bigger family means less time for each child, but I found the opposite to be true. When you prioritize connection, family size doesn't dictate closeness. A scripture that has encouraged me in this: "Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward." Psalms 127:3. This season of life is fleeting, and I don't want to rush through it. They will grow up before I know it, and these moments will never get back. Every single time we announce a new baby, we get a mix of reactions. Some people are excited, others say good luck in a way that makes it clear that they think that we're crazy. Then there are the classic questions about birth control, family size, and how we manage it all. I've been absolutely blown away by all the questions people have asked me about birth control this time around. Yes, having a child means more logistical challenges. Yes, it means adjusting our family dynamics. But it also means more love, more laughter, and more of God's blessings. I wouldn't trade this for anything. I don't have it all figured out. The best thing I can do is trust in God's plan and lean into His grace. I may not have as much time to prepare in the same way I did for my first baby, second baby, or honestly even my fourth baby. But I know this, God has called me to this, and He will equip me and my husband Dan. A scripture that has encouraged me: trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. Proverbs 3:5-6. As our due date approaches, I am holding on to the promise that every child is a gift and every stage of family life is precious. To all the new moms, big family moms, and those wondering if they're making the right decision, take heart. God has given you this calling for a good reason, and He will walk with you every step of the way. So here's to the adventure of a fifth baby, the blessing of larger-ish families, and the joy of embracing the unknown. Let's do this, mamas.